Kuba Lobo, a young African man with dreams as vast as the ocean, had always yearned for adventure. After completing his studies overseas, he returned to his homeland to help build a better future for his community. He was filled with anticipation as he stepped off the plane and breathed in the familiar scent of his homeland. His heart swelled with pride, but he was also anxious about the future. His family had high expectations, and he wanted to meet them all. At the airport, Kuba was greeted by his parents and their caretaker, Mr. Tatu Kabwe, who had always been like a second father to him. Mr. Kabwe's youngest daughter, Meta Kabwe, stood beside her father, her eyes wide with awe and curiosity. Kuba had only vague memories of Meta as a little girl, but now she was a young woman, graceful and strikingly beautiful. Kuba's parents had thrown a grand homecoming party to celebrate his return. Amid the festivities, Kuba found himself drawn to Meta. She was quiet but had a captivating presence. As they chatted, he discovered her intelligence and kindness, qualities that intrigued him deeply. Over the following weeks, Kuba and Meta spent more time together. They went on long walks, discussing their dreams and aspirations. Kuba admired Meta's resilience and her passion for education, despite her family's financial struggles. It wasn't long before they fell deeply in love. Kuba's parents were initially happy to see their son so joyful. However, his mother, Mama Kuba, soon began to disapprove of his growing affection for Meta. She believed that Meta's lower social status made her unworthy of her son. Mama Kuba began to plot ways to separate them, enlisting the help of Meta's elder sister, Adisa, who had always been jealous of Meta's beauty and charm. Despite the opposition, Kuba and Meta's love only grew stronger. They decided to get married, hoping that their union would eventually win over Kuba's mother. The wedding was a modest but beautiful ceremony, filled with joy and hope for the future. Life after marriage was not as blissful as Kuba and Meta had hoped. Mama Kuba's disapproval turned into active hostility. She constantly belittled Meta, undermining her every effort to fit into the family. Adisa, driven by envy and her own ambition, added fuel to the fire by feeding Mama Kuba's resentment with lies and gossip. Kuba, caught between his love for Meta and his duty to his mother, often found himself in difficult situations. Misunderstandings and arguments became frequent, straining their once strong bond. Kuba and Meta's marriage, which began with so much love and promise, soon became strained by the constant interference of Kuba's mother, Mama Kuba. She was infatuated with her son, believing that Meta could never be good enough for him. This possessiveness manifested in daily criticisms and undermining comments directed at Meta. Mama Kuba would often tell Meta that she wasn't cooking properly or keeping the house as clean as she should, making Meta feel inadequate and unwelcome in her own home. The tension grew as Mama Kuba began to meddle in more personal aspects of their life. She would often interrupt their private moments, insisting that Kuba spend more time with her instead. This led to frequent arguments between Kuba and Meta, as Meta felt increasingly isolated and disrespected. "You promised to be with me, to support me," Meta would say, her voice breaking with frustration. But Kuba, torn between his love for his wife and his sense of duty to his mother, often sided with Mama Kuba, exacerbating the conflict. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Meta tried to talk to Kuba about the constant pressure she was under. "Kuba, we need to set some boundaries with your mother," she pleaded. But Kuba, already in a foul mood from work, snapped. "She's just trying to help. Why can't you appreciate what she does for us?" he shouted. Meta felt her heart sink. No matter how much she tried to explain her feelings, Kuba seemed unwilling or unable to understand. The misunderstandings piled up, each one adding to the growing wall between them. Mama Kuba would often tell Kuba that Meta was being lazy or disrespectful, planting seeds of doubt in his mind. These insinuations led to more arguments. "Why can't you be more respectful to my mother?" Kuba would yell. Meta, hurt and confused, would try to defend herself, but her words always seemed to fall on deaf ears. The loving conversations they once shared were replaced with shouting matches that left both of them emotionally exhausted. Things escalated when Meta found out she was pregnant. Instead of joy, the news was met with suspicion from Mama Kuba, who accused Meta of trying to trap Kuba. "This is just another scheme of hers," Mama Kuba whispered to Kuba. The next argument was the worst they'd had yet. Kuba confronted Meta, his eyes filled with mistrust. "Did you do this on purpose?" he demanded. Meta, shocked and heartbroken, could barely speak through her tears. The love that had brought them together now seemed like a distant memory. The fights became more frequent and more intense. One night, after another heated argument fueled by Mama Kuba's relentless criticism, Kuba's anger reached a boiling point. "You never listen. You never understand," he screamed, his face contorted with rage. Meta, terrified, backed away, her eyes wide with fear. She could see the anger in Kuba's eyes, and for a moment, she thought he might hit her. She fled to their bedroom, locking the door behind her, her heart pounding. In the silence of the locked room, Meta sat on the floor, tears streaming down her face. She could hear Kuba pacing outside, his breathing heavy and erratic. She felt trapped, not just in the room but in a marriage that was becoming more toxic by the day. Meta loved Kuba, but the constant battles and his unwillingness to stand up to his mother were breaking her spirit. She felt alone and unsupported, questioning how much longer she could endure this torment. The next morning, Kuba tried to apologize, but the damage was done. "I'm sorry, Meta. I didn't mean to scare you," he said, his voice softer, but the sincerity seemed to be waning. Meta nodded but couldn't bring herself to speak. She was exhausted, both physically and emotionally, from the constant turmoil. Mama Kuba's presence loomed over their relationship like a dark cloud, and Meta could see no way out of the storm. Mama Kuba continued her campaign against Meta, now more subtly, but just as effectively. She would make offhand comments about Meta's appearance, her cooking, and her ability to be a good wife and mother. Each comment was a dagger to Meta's heart, and each one led to more arguments with Kuba. "Why do you let her talk to me like that?" Meta would cry, but Kuba, entrenched in his mother's manipulation, would brush her off. "She's just trying to help. Why can't you see that?" he would reply, adding to Meta's growing sense of helplessness. The day came when Meta couldn't take it anymore. Another argument had erupted, and Kuba's anger flared up again. "You're tearing this family apart," he shouted. Meta, on the verge of breaking, screamed back, "No, Kuba. It's your mother and your inability to see what she's doing that's destroying us." Kuba's hand twitched as if he might strike her, but he held back. Meta ran to their room, her sobs echoing through the house. She knew something had to change, or their once strong bond would be irreparably shattered. One evening, as Kuba was returning home late from work, he overheard a conversation between Mama Kuba and Adisa. They were plotting to drive Meta away by making her life so miserable that she would live on her own. They planned to manipulate Kuba into believing that Meta was unfaithful and unworthy of his love. Kuba was devastated. He realized the extent of his mother's cruelty and his sister-in-law's malice. His heart broke at the thought of how much Meta had suffered because of his family's actions and his own failure to protect her. Determined to make things right, Kuba confronted his mother and Adisa. He expressed his deep disappointment and anger, vowing to no longer allow them to interfere in his marriage. Mama Kuba was stunned by his defiance, but Kuba was resolute. He then went to Meta, who was in their room, packing her bags in tears, ready to leave. Kuba fell to his knees before her, his eyes filled with remorse and sorrow. "Meta, I'm so sorry for not standing by you. Please forgive me. I promise to protect you and our child from now on." Meta, seeing the sincerity in Kuba's eyes, felt a glimmer of hope. She put her hand on his shoulder, her heart heavy with the pain of the past but also with the love that still lingered. Kuba and Meta decided to leave the toxic environment behind. With a heavy heart, Kuba said goodbye to his father, who understood and supported their decision. They packed their belongings and moved to America, seeking a fresh start. In America, they found a small but cozy apartment and began to build their new life. Kuba found a good job, and Meta focused on her health and preparing for the arrival of their baby. The change of scenery and the absence of his family's negativity allowed their love to heal and grow stronger. Kuba worked hard to regain Meta's trust. He was attentive and supportive, ensuring that she felt valued and loved. Meta, seeing Kuba's genuine efforts, began to let go of her pain and embraced the new life they were creating. They explored their new city, finding joy in simple moments together. Kuba took Meta to parks, museums, and cultural events, helping her feel connected to their new home. They also made friends with other African immigrants, creating a supportive community around them. The day finally arrived when Meta went into labor. Kuba was by her side, holding her hand and encouraging her through every contraction. After hours of labor, they welcomed a beautiful baby girl into the world. They named her Amora, meaning grace. Amora brought immense joy to their lives. She was a symbol of their love and resilience. Kuba and Meta vowed to provide her with a loving and supportive environment, free from the negativity they had left behind. As the years passed, Kuba and Meta's family grew. They had another child, a boy named Kofi, and continued to build a happy life together. Kuba's career flourished, and Meta pursued her passion for education, eventually becoming a teacher. They never forgot the hardships they had faced, but those experiences had made them stronger and more appreciative of their love. They made it a point to visit Africa regularly, reconnecting with their roots and sharing their culture with their children. Kuba and Meta's love story became an inspiration to their community. They hosted gatherings, sharing their journey and offering support to other couples facing challenges. Their home was filled with laughter, love, and the warmth of a family that had triumphed over adversity. In the quiet moments, Kuba often reflected on their journey. He was grateful for Meta's forgiveness and the life they had built together. Meta, too, felt blessed to have found a partner who had ultimately stood by her and cherished her. Together, they lived their lives with the knowledge that love, when nurtured with understanding and respect, could overcome any obstacle. And so, Kuba, Meta, Amora, and Kofi lived happily ever after, a testament to the power of love and resilience. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you would like to get more stories on My African Tales channel.